Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I needed to do a video on something that happened to me yesterday. So if you recall, or if you've been watching any of my videos, I have a video about how the Batman movie is not a woke movie. And the reason I say this, or my entire thesis for this, is because of the fact that people were saying that, well, Catwoman says that there are these white privileged people, and that's the reason why everything is going to, the dogs, right? Everything is going bad because of this white privilege. And people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is a woke movie, and this is terrible, and I'm not going to support it, and you should all go boycott it." And that's what everybody was like flipping out about. And so I said, look, just because a character says a given thing doesn't mean that the movie itself is advocating or supporting that thing. And oftentimes what you really need to do is look at the context and look at the character saying it. So in this particular case, you have a villain of the movie advocating for a philosophy that is not what the movie supports. Selina Kyle is constantly trying to murder people and steal things in this movie, right? And I know that a lot of people like to say that, well, Catwoman is kind of like a gray area character. Sometimes she's a hero, sometimes she's a villain. And well, that's all well and good, but in the context of the film, she's a villain. She is one of the antagonists. She's not the antagonist, but she's one of them that Batman has to deal with in the course of the film. So her saying something that is quote unquote woke doesn't mean that the movie in and of itself is woke. Which brings me to the reason I'm doing this video today. So yesterday I saw an article on Bounding into Comics where the new X-Men book, the Immortal X-Men #1, has a sequence where a character refers to Jesus in not necessarily in an explicit manner, but in kind of a roundabout manner. And he says that Jesus was a mutant. And this is what you would consider blasphemous from a religious perspective. If you were an adherent to a Christian, actually a lot of different religions, to insinuate that Jesus is not the Son of God per Christians, or a great prophet per the Islamic faith, if you are trying to insinuate that Jesus isn't some kind of supernatural figure, but he's rather a mutant, then that's going to fly in the face of this doctrine, of the doctrine and a lot of religious teachings, right? And there's no reason to say this. And so I was like, oh my goodness gracious, I am super offended and pissed off. And I ran to the article, or as far as in so much as you can run to an article on the internet. But I went to the article, I loaded it up, and I read the entire thing, and I was full of righteous anger. So I went to Twitter, I tagged both the writer of the book, and I tagged Marvel, and I said, "Excuse me!" And then I thought about it, and then I deleted it, and I went back and I read some of the commentary on the article itself on Bounding into Comics, where people reply to the article, and they basically take pot shots at the articles, and etc. And one person said, well, the character that says this is Exodus. And Exodus is well known as a former Christian fanatic. Well, you know what? I said, okay, all right, I'm going to look into this, right? So that's why I have the Marvel Encyclopedia. I bought this book years ago, and I bought it just because I wanted to have a reference for some comic art, but it's also a handy dandy thing that actually has a lot of characters that have been created in Marvel that you can go read about. And lo and behold, boom, we have Exodus right here. Exodus is in this book. Now, if you read this, it says, the first appearance of Exodus is X Factor Volume 1, number 92, July 1993. Real name, Bennett du Paris. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Right? Is it Bennett du Paris or Bennett du Paris? I have no idea. Maybe it's Paris. I don't really care. Occupation, supervillain. Supervillain. And his base is mobile. His height is 5'10", weight 165, eyes white, hair black. Special powers, abilities, incalculable psionic powers, including telepathy, telekinesis, and the ability to fire mental bolts. Possesses advanced or enhanced strength, near invulnerability, and flight. Originally a crusader during the 12th century, the mutant... Okay, so, right off the bat, right? He's a crusader from the 12th century. Not what most people would say following in the footsteps of Jesus, right? A lot of things have been said about the Crusades, and the misguided reasoning for the Crusades. But the fact of the matter is that this is a supervillain saying something that is villainous. And while Kieran Gillen is responsible for writing the book, and I believe putting this sentence in there is problematic and designed to be inflammatory, it's something that the character might actually say. And even though some people might say, well, this is what Kieran's personal view is, or he thinks it's funny, the bottom line is that it's very disrespectful to people who have strong beliefs in their faith. And there's really no reason to go out of your way to say that. So while it does still irritate me, and while it actually is considered blasphemous to say something like that, basically to say, hey Christians, by the way, the Son of God is not a son of God. He's just a mutant. He's just a mutant, and your whole Bible is a lie. Ha ha ha. What do you think about that? Spike the football. I understand that could very well be the reason why Gillen wrote that line. But the fact of the matter is that I can't sit there and take it seriously because of the fact that I just talked about the fact that, you have to understand the context of the character who's saying it and who's saying it. So in this particular case, in Immortal X-Men #1, you have a supervillain, right? Who is a former religious fanatic, like a fanatic, not like someone who's actually well-grounded in theology, but you had a fanatic supervillain saying something that's offensive. So it's not like, you had Wolverine or you had, Cyclops or Jean Grey go out there and say this. You actually had someone who's a known bad actor saying it. I really wanted to be super mad. I really wanted to go to the Twitter box and rail and wax poetic about the horrifying bigotry of some rando on the internet. But I was thwarted by my own realization that, again, you have to look into the context. So would I have written that kind of dialogue myself personally? No, I would not. Why? Because that's needlessly inflammatory to people who are reading it. Now, there are a lot of people, and I will acknowledge this, there are a lot of people who are going to read that and get super pissed off about it, and I'm not going to blame them. So this kind of stuff really wouldn't fly. It's actually considered very, very offensive to draw Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, right? In fact, I don't believe that Marvel would draw the Prophet Muhammad in a comic book, right? Ask me how I know. Ask me why I might think that way. Needless to say, that's not the case with Christians, because Christians, shall we say, have a different way of dealing with things. I'm just going to put it that way. That it's open season on people who have deep Christian beliefs and are very sensitive to that. I think that the X-Men books are a great example of an opportunity to bring people together, not divide them and separate them and take stupid cheap shots at them. Ultimately here, there's no real reason to have Exodus make that comment. There isn't. And while I'm not going to sit here and be mad about it for the reasons that I thought I was going to be mad about it, I still think it's incredibly bad taste, and I don't really understand why someone would let this slip through editorial. This is just not something that you should do. Furthermore, it's a lot like that recent controversy with Immortal Hulk 43, where Joe Bennett was drawing anti-Semitic symbolism at a jewelry shop. Things like that are offensive. I don't care about the First Amendment aspect of this. It's not about that. It's about doing things that are needlessly antagonistic. And Marvel really should try to move away from that. We got enough things to be pissed off about in the world without taking cheap shots at people in freaking comic books. Okay, guys? That's my barely hinged rant for today. I was ready to go on a full-on, full blast. Marvel has it out for the Jesus fans, but, I checked myself, and then I still got upset anyway. But I got upset for a different reason. So I feel like I've made progress. I've made personal progress here. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe for me. And, maybe I'll do some more barely hinged rants. Maybe I'll even do some totally, completely unhinged rants. This has been Comics with Drew. I'm Drew. I'll catch you next time.